Oh my word, Arthie. Tuesday intro. So people are going to have an existential crisis right now. People, it's Wednesday. Sorry.
It's awesome.
Welcome, Arthie. Arthie Moore
Thank
Robert.
you.
If you haven't seen any of our conversations before, then you're in for a treat because it's going to be awesome. Can't wait, right, Arthie? We're going to talk about relationships and what we learn from them. So we learn obviously a lot from bad relationships. Shall we start on that side?
Absolutely. I think with the conversation we're having today, it's all about where we were at, and for a lot of people who are really battling right now with where they're heading and this loneliness that people have. It's just
Yes.
become a lot more prominent. So when we're talking about past relationships and all of the things that have happened in the past, we cannot actually quantify it and bring it into our present right now and understand why it's affecting our inability to connect with people or to fill that gap. So where people are actually they're battling on so many different levels, but when it comes to relationships specifically, people are now craving that a lot more than they've ever wanted. But the way that they're approaching it is the difference. And I think that we
Yes.
can actually look at the difference maker of the approach of what happened before with bad relationships, or even what makes bad relationships, or even what are the
Well,
traits we need to look out for.
well, let's start from a different place. Maybe we say, if I have done my healing, I will
Mm,
go into a relationship looking for something different.
yes.
And if I have done my healing, I will communicate in a different way. And
Mm.
okay, muffin. And if I, every night, um, it's the me and muffin show. And if I've done my healing, I will know that it's my job to take care of my wants and needs, which is
Mm.
like so crucial because can somebody please put that subject in school? Hello, kids. Whose job is it to take care of your wants and needs? Oh, no, you. Like, how do you do that? You ask. How do you ask? This is how you ask. What is boundaries? What is respect for yourself? What is not for other people? What is respect for yourself? Like, who teaches that to anybody?
But what about self-love? What
Mm,
is okay, the simplicity? With self-love comes a lot of the traits that we need to actually look for, where we need to care and honor ourselves. It's a different way of showing respect and respecting the boundaries and the things we will allow in the way we allow people to interact with us, the way we communicate, the most effective way of how we ask for what our wants and needs are. So, I mean, everybody wants to feel special, right? But I mean, nobody actually quantifies it. What is special meaning to you? What does that mean in terms of my behavior, my tone, the way that I speak to you? So when you're talking about boundaries, I mean, think about it. What will you allow? How will you allow people to treat you? And the boundaries with bad relationships is when you had the lack of it or none of it. So what we do then is we bring those experiences embedded within ourselves, within our being, and it comes up as triggers in the current relationship or even what we've got. Or even worse, it's become so subconsciously programmed in our brain of what we become used to, that
mhm.
we attract the same kind of environment to us. I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we're going to unpack it a little bit more. So
Mm,
if we're not in that lucky 10%, maybe,
mm,
of people who have self-love and they value themselves and their self-respect and they know how to walk away from something that is toxic for them, then we're going
mm,
to end up in a relationship that's not working for us. And I think there's going to be like three main things that are going to determine it. The first one is how we view ourselves. So how
mm,
valuable are we?
mm,
How much are we willing to settle in order to just get love and attention? how 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 empty are we inside? How much do we need somebody else to fix us? I mean, we've got to start with that. Because too many people go into a relationship wanting to be fixed by it. And part of that is that some people want the person so much that they become addicted to a person. They're not addicted to the kind of a relationship they want to have for themselves. They are addicted to a person. And then they go into denial and then they wish it differently. Like, if it was like that, then I can be happy. So they're in a constant denial of what is really going on in their life. I mean, I've been part of that too. I've been part of that particular problem, wishing it different, believing it will be different, for 28 years of my life, where I ended up in helpless and hopeless because I sat waiting for somebody to change. Instead of me realizing, but this is the reality, this is who I married, this is my circumstances, and it's up to me. I need to go and check myself. What is it that, in which way am I teaching somebody how to treat me or how not to treat me? How big is that?
Yes. That is
Now,
massive.
you know this because you've been in a bad relationship, and when you go to that and you say, how did I teach that person to treat me? What was okay with me?
Do you know what? Somebody actually, and that's a brilliant point you bring up, because I never knew I was in a bad relationship. And the reason being is that I thought that was normal. Growing up
Yes,
in an
yes.
environment where there was a lot of abuse, I thought that was normal.
You
And
thought you were lucky.
exactly, right? And
Yeah, and
then when there was
some
a
people,
point, I was like, what? That is love. That maybe that is what love is like. It was those small moments, and I hung on to those moments out of gratitude so much that I allowed all those other things to, and I didn't even realize all of the other things were piling up and were slowly draining my spirit. And what we were saying earlier on, looking at what are bad relationships. So for me, there was no boundaries. There was a constant um, that changing what I'm saying and making me look as if I was at fault continuously. And I could never understand it. And so it was a slow buildup of self-doubt. And I got to that point where my self-confidence and my self-esteem was this low. And so what I did was I stayed in the background in everything. So I would not allow myself to step up or to shine or even be seen in any way. I would not even dress up. And see, when you're in a nurturing, beautiful relationship, you actually enjoy who you are and you
yeah,
shine for yourself, not the other person, for yourself. That is when you are already having gone through a process of healing. But when I was in that relationship, I realized I doubted myself, I second guessed myself, I allowed finances to be handled by the other person. No matter what they did wrong, I looked at what I could do to realign and make it right. So I took full responsibility, and that's emotionally draining. And I did not realize that until I actually looked at, photos come up with memories from with Google Memories, right?
yeah.
And the brilliant thing about it is I actually looked at the photos of myself 8 years ago, and I thought, well, okay, I look good there, I'm dressed up. But I looked at myself for the first time, and I could see there was no light shining, there was no vibrance, there was no spirit, there wasn't any energy within me that was shining like it would do now. And I was looking at the difference between the healing that had to happen when that relationship stopped to getting into a different type of healing where I noticed it took me a few years with my own self healing to get to the point where I can actually physically see the changes. But then, even the light in my eyes and the shine, the smile is different. And we don't even realize being in a bad relationship, the simplicity of go and look at your photos with the person that you are with. And that's going to be a massive reality check because I was complacent. I allowed myself to be the doormat. And you know what? I made it look to myself as if I was the self sacrificial lamb doing it for the good of everybody else. So, what I did was I made myself the martyr of the relationship, which is even more
Mm.
dangerous because then I justified why I did not have to be loved in the way that I deserve because I did not believe in it. And one of the words that I changed was I said, I'm no longer a hopeless romantic. I call myself a hopeful romantic
Uh,
because then I started to think of all the beautiful things that love should be. But I didn't have any role models at that time.
yeah, I mean, you're basically describing the mess, the mess we end up in
Yeah.
because little pieces of us
Mm,
get chipped away and chipped away and
mm,
chipped away, and this is just our life. So little pieces get chipped away, and then by the time we get to grown up, we
mm,
we don't quite know anymore who we were born to be, and then because we don't believe in ourselves and we don't believe that we are worthy, and we actually don't
mm.
believe that anybody will want to stay with us for us. That's our biggest
Yeah.
problem. Deep down,
Yeah.
we know, whatever shit happened in our life, it's because I'm an unacceptable person and I have to try harder and I have to adjust and I have to fix it. And we do it, and this is the mess. The mess that happens is that we do it because we are so starved for love and attention and
Mm,
acceptance that we will keep doing it for those 5 seconds, those 5 minutes, that half day,
yeah.
the week by the sea, when all of a sudden our hopes go up and we think, yeah, but you know
Mm,
what? It can
mm,
work after all. And then we forget about the other 99% of the time where, like you say, where you settle for something because you don't actually know that you are worthy of more. You don't know that this is not on. You remember somewhere in my book, I've got a whole list of how is this on? How is this acceptable? Because
mm,
it happens with so many people out there that
mm,
we just accept this is how it is. We may have it a bit better than our parents had, or we may be so relieved that we actually have a relationship, or
mm.
we're so dependent on that little bit of scraps that we get that we normalize it, what we're having. We don't know better. We maybe don't have a better example. It takes great introspection
Mm.
before one become aware that this is not on. It's not okay if somebody treats
No.
you like this. It's also not okay if you treat yourself like this, because in the end, it's the question is still, what are you teaching the people around you? How is it okay to treat you? Because if you tell them something different from day one, how very different is your life?
Massive. But isn't that like the martyr syndrome, right?
Mm,
Martyr will die until they're acknowledged, but they'll sacrifice everything of who they are, and nobody even acknowledges or even accredits them for what they've been doing all their lives. And then there's the thing, though, in a relationship, we could become the martyrs where we will cry at night. I mean, I used to all the time. But I would show up every morning, nobody knowing what had gone the day before, nobody listening to the words that I was listening to on the receiving end of, not understanding that my heart was breaking in a million pieces constantly. It was from the words, it was the innuendos, it was the actions. I mean, there was so much, but here's the thing, it was so much and it was so noticeable, and yet I couldn't see it. So I mean, there was a shutter that that and I think maybe it was a self protection mode. If I ignore it, it goes away, but it didn't. It just continued, and the buildup was so intense. It took a long time before I could actually find the courage to even believe that this was not right, this was not acceptable. And it took me a lot of different processes to get to that point, because nobody teaches self healing. Nobody teaches, I mean, everybody does motivational speeches about you should respect yourself. Okay, yes, but how? And I always say that, when people
I
tell us
teach
that we
that.
need to do
Hello,
stuff,
hello,
how?
hello. Louise teach self-healing.
I know you do, but I'm saying like it's school. And if you're
Yes.
sitting with
No,
you're sitting
nobody.
with people, even if you're sitting with your friends and you say, you know what, this is what happened, this was the incident, and you're trying to wrap your head around it, and they'll say to you, no man, you just need to love yourself more, dress up more, put on some makeup, look after yourself. So, in my head, getting advice like that, I'm always the one who was at fault. So it was always, no, I needed to do something like, okay, if he's doing that, what did you do wrong? And even culturally, it is ingrained in us. Our culture, our religion, our background, our circumstances, the areas we grew up, community based culture, they will want you to keep everything quiet. Don't tell anybody what's going on, which means you suffer internally. And so this bad relationship becomes like this anchor that you have now. You cannot get rid of it, because that's going to be a stigma on your family and the people around you. So there's another self-sacrificial moment where you're doing it for your country and for your family and everybody,
Yes.
and then you take the abuse. And so
Mm.
when I think that the blindness is sometimes a self-protection mechanism that most of us would have to actually take on, because of it's not a nurturing environment where people are going to support you through that. Because no matter how many times I spoke up, I was told, no, you cannot get a divorce, it's against our culture or religion. No, you're the woman, what are you doing wrong if he is doing those things? No, if you don't have any money left in the account, why are you not stepping up and putting your foot down? And I'm like, how? We were taught that the man in the relationship is always the person in charge of finances. Now, if he's abusing it and his own family and everybody else around me don't want to talk to him, how did it become my fault? So now then I internalized that too. So now I needed to go and work out what I need to step up in to bring in more income. So I'm always challenging myself to grow, but it was growing in different areas, not at the level where I was healing my heart or even healing my thinking in terms of where do I put boundaries? How do I do this with a strong personality like that? And nobody's going to believe him. Nobody will believe me either, because it's my fault. I cry at night and then put on the makeup and the brave face. So I took responsibility for that part too. Nobody knew because I never let them know. So it
You know,
wasn't
Artie,
anybody else's fault.
that part breaks my heart because I mean I've done the same. In 20 years of marriage, I have not told anybody, not not my closest friends. It was probably only. I mean, I eventually learned that I can't, with a drinking problem, I can't be quiet about it.
Mm,
And so I phoned my mother and I told her, and she was shocked. And I phoned my brother, and he was shocked, and both didn't know what to say to me. And then I phoned his boss at work, and I told him, and he was shocked, and he didn't know what to say to me. And I phoned the
mm,
minister, and he was shocked, and he didn't know what to say to me. And literally the only person who could help me was a professional that said, stop covering for
mm,
him today.
mm.
But nobody in my life, except for those 4 people that I phoned, ever knew anything. It was like, hello, it's fine, I'm fine, nothing is wrong, we're happy, for 28 years.
Yeah.
And but I did find happiness in between the mess for 15 years.
Mm,
I managed to find the happiness there and push
yeah.
down the desperation of my situation and quietly trying to fix this all by my own, which is just ridiculous. I don't know that one can get through to somebody when you're still in that stage. I think it's really hard to get through to somebody
Mhm.
when you're still in that stage and to say, it doesn't need to be this hard. You don't have to carry this whole world on your shoulders. You cannot fix a relationship by yourself. If the other person is not working as hard as you, or they're not doing their 50%, then you can't fix it. And at the same time, what the heck is it that you're actually doing wrong? Because it's not what you think you're doing wrong. You think you're doing this wrong. I should be better. I should work hard. That's not what you're doing wrong. You're not having boundaries. You're not loving yourself. You're
Mm.
not loving yourself. You don't know what's not acceptable in relationships. You're going with bad examples. You're so happy for scraps. That's what we're doing wrong. We don't
Hmm.
know that.
Exactly. And I mean, what you're saying makes so much sense because when I finally spoke up, somebody actually used a nasty word for me. And that was the trigger. They were talking to me and they said, for a person who's broken. And I was, what? What do you mean? No, no. People like you're broken, and you must realize that you can't have much in life because you've got all of these fragments of a life. I said, what do you mean? And they were talking into what broken relationships are like and all sorts of things. And I said, hold on one second. Right there. I am not broken. So I said, right there, get lost with that. And I refused to accept that word. And see, there's the thing. That was for me the trigger and the turning point that I actually needed for the first time. That if I was speaking up about all of this devastation, and then suddenly everybody started to come forward. The second I managed to get a divorce, suddenly everybody came out of the woodwork and they said, yeah, but we knew it. We always saw it. Well, then why didn't you help me? Why didn't you support me? Now that I managed to find the strength to do this, now you tell me I'm broken. And I was not going to accept that word and the terminology because with it comes a lot of subconscious programming. Now I'm a whole human being, just with some areas within me that needs to be healed. It's not broken. It just needs time and love and care and compassion and thoughtfulness and a lot more kindness to myself to be healed to a point where I can actually feel the difference. It doesn't make me incomplete. It doesn't mean that I've got missing parts of me. That is a statement that people use too liberally when they say, you're broken and I'm a broken person. Let's all us broken people get together. And what do we talk about? Our brokenness. We are not broken. We've just had bad experiences that all added up to the point where we just need guidance and support and the right tools and the techniques. And that's exactly what your book teaches. I mean,
Yeah.
the hamster wheel for relationships, even with your retreat, takes people into a deep dive of themselves. It takes them into an understanding of self and what people allowed, and then a reality check. So you question everything, but there's a healing in questioning everything, but there's a completion to the way that you allow people to get to their own understanding of self. Now, a lot of programs that I've interacted with, people will throw out their one-liners and here's a process. But what your book did for me personally, and even when I read it the first time, I said to you, with my new relationship, and even though we'd been going through a couple of years together as best friends, we went through a healing process for the both of us. And reading the book gave me the foundations to question everything I'd ever programmed in my mind to think. So I had to reprogram because your book triggered a lot of things for me. And what I loved was that in every chapter there was a workbook that questioned me further. So it wasn't just a read the book and get the insight. It was read it in gentle stages and things are going to come up for you, but do the work.
Yeah.
So,
It's
I
exactly
mean,
how it was intended to work. And not everybody does that. Some people read through it quickly and then they're done. They think, and if you don't engage with those questions, because it's meant to be in the place of
Yes.
a counseling session. I mean, those are the things that I do in a counseling session, because it's this what we are talking about. It's this: what are my patterns? Why
Mm,
am I allowing this? What am I not seeing? So I ask a lot of questions so that you can start seeing, okay, I am the common denominator here. Okay, I do this every time. Okay, this is what I missed.
mm.
Okay, here is where I can start to look at my role differently.
Exactly.
You know, it's all about self-empowerment, because once you
Yes.
learn this in your closest relationships, you learn it in all your relationships. You get better relationship with your siblings and
Mm.
with your work colleagues, and I mean you just get better relationships with everyone. So it really is about that. But after you said something about the way other people were not willing to be involved, and I think it's even worse. It's First of all, I mean, we do walk around with this thing like, let's not get involved in other people's business. It's a little bit hard if people all look okay. You really can't get involved in people's business if they are so bulletproof and they never say
Mm,
anything. They take all this weight
mm,
on them, and then when you are bulletproof, you have another problem. That's the thing, is that you look so bulletproof and so together that nobody in their wildest dreams can think that inside you're crying your mattress into a wet pulp every night because you don't show up vulnerable. You don't share with people. You can't get help until you become vulnerable and you're willing to speak out. And you're
mm.
willing to start saying, this is shitty. I don't like this. This is hard. Help me. We are bulletproof, and then we don't get help until we walk into a wall and there's nothing left of us, and we've got to start again. We literally cause this ourselves.
Now I'm laughing because when you're talking about the soggy mattress, right? So, and that's a reality for a lot of people who
Mm-hmm.
will not be vulnerable enough to actually say, yes, I did that too. Or even if people do say yes, they're internalizing it right now and like, oof, I'm not the only one. And I
No.
hope that they take this as a reality check that even though we're sitting here and we look like we've got it all together, it took a lot of work and healing to get here. Now, your soggy mattress was my couch.
Mm.
So, even in my family, they did not know that I slept on a couch every single night for 7 years of my marriage. And nobody knew about it because I would be the last one to go to bed and I'd be the first one up and everything's done at 4 a.m. And I would make sure that, nobody knew because I was trained to believe that your marriage and your family should never be brought out into the public domain for anybody to dissect or talk about your gossip. Now, there are many people, and this is a reality, that just love juicy tidbits and they'll do anything to bring somebody down rather than find the courage to actually help to pull them up. And that is also one of the things that's very, very dominant in even in South Africa as a culture. We're so used to let's see how we can bring somebody down rather than bring them up,
But
and so we never
it's
told anybody.
it's so interesting that when you start loving yourself and you start accepting yourself, you don't care a hoot about what other people say anymore. I mean, I could never show up and even tell my best friend how desperate I was, how how unhappy I was, how many nights I cried myself to sleep, how I ended up in helpless and hopeless that I didn't know what to do anymore. I mean, I gave up on myself. I didn't even know in the end who I was anymore. And I didn't even tell my best friend. And I had no conversation left. I had absolutely no conversation left. I had nothing to give anymore because I didn't know how to fix this. We don't have tools. You don't have tools for that you haven't been given. And your parents didn't give them to you. Where the heck are you going to get tools? But but after all of this time of look, let me tell you about my mattress. I when I woke up and I said, I'm not doing this anymore.
Mm.
And we actually started working on our relationship. For the next that mattress was past its due date. It had to be replaced anyway. And I refused. I said, as long as there's the slightest chance that I'm going to cry myself to sleep again, I will not replace this mattress. And the day when I knew I have now learned how to be happy inside myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know what I did? I burned that bloody mattress. I burned it. I refused flatly. I said, I will not donate this mattress to anybody. I don't care. I am burning this mattress. This mattress, I'm going to burn it. I need to stand and watch it burn because
Mm-hmm.
this is something that I want to say to myself. I never, ever want to be that person again who was roadkill, who was so desperate for love and being acceptable, that I have given up on myself. And so once I learned to love myself and I didn't need that soggy mattress anymore, I was able to burn it. But I wanted to see it burn. I wanted to make very sure that it's in my head, that it's in my psyche, that I have the ability to be happy. And I have the ability to not need somebody else to make me happy. That is so important. You can't go into a relationship expecting a relationship to make you happy. You have to be happy and you have to love yourself and you have to value yourself so much that you're willing to show people how you deserve to be treated. And that's not a harsh thing or a selfish thing because now you're in a relationship which is different, right, Alfie?
Absolutely. Way different. But you know what I realized where the difference is every single thing you spoke about right now. I had to heal within myself. I needed to work out what my happiness was and what would make me happy. I had to choose for myself to heal and transform my belief systems. I had to go on transformation courses. I read the books and I looked for the tools that's going to guide me and sustain the change. But while I was doing that, I actually wrote down very specifically what I deserved. Now, before this, I had a general idea of this is what I would like in my person. This time, I was so much more clearer. When we look at mind power, he, John Keel, I actually had the chance to work with him, and he taught me directly all of the different nuances of our subconscious mindset. And I thought, right, I need to become more aware of the triggers. What did I not like and enjoy from the tone, the behavior, the words, the actions? And then resolve it within me. Because when I go into the next relationship, I cannot allow those things to be the reason why I hurt the next relationship by not showing up and being myself, and holding back. And one of the biggest things was communication. I realized hinting where I thought I was being gentle and I was being loving in the way that I was asking for things. I now I realize be direct. Hey,
Yeah.
I would like to receive flowers because I
Mm.
absolutely love flowers, and I think it would be stunning. And I seriously appreciate it when you give it to me instead of walking past a whole lot of flowers is like, oh, that would be nice to have. And now
Yes.
there's a difference between the old relationship and the new one. It was a transition I had to make for myself before I can become happy in who I was, grounded in my very being, having built my spirit to the point where I was not resentful. And then I knew that I would not resent anything that came from the new one. And I realized that it's that personal introspection has to be constant. It's an everyday, it's a daily thing. It's constant work, but I had to do it. I could not expect it. And that was another conscious belief that I had to ingrain in my mind, that this person was not put on this earth to make me happy. It's me being happy in myself, him being happy in himself, and together we're sharing that happiness. And yes, there'll be times where we do not agree, but it's the way we respect each other. It had to be built on very firm, powerful foundations. And I didn't have that before. I followed like a sheep. I followed everything that everybody else said to me, but I never followed my own intuitive side, my gut feeling, and the thing that was screaming within me, that's not right. You don't deserve it. And so even now I say I deserve the best and I believe it.
Mm.
Whereas
Yeah.
before it was just words. But
Well, the thing
my
is,
reality did not resonate with that.
if we come from any kind of upbringing where we had even the tiniest little bit of trauma, we are going to carry it with us until it's really resolved. And we are going to believe we are the cause of it until we address it. And we are going to believe we're not good enough or somebody won't want to stay with us. And we're going to be secretly so happy that somebody actually wants to be with us, that really, how lucky we are. Somebody's actually sticking out with me and my unacceptability, And there's too many of us who walk around like that. And it really just takes waking up to the fact that we are walking around with in dreamland. We're not awake. We are walking around with our parents' perspectives, our history, our trauma. We are not awake and present, and we are not challenging our very thought and our outlooks, and we are not finding a way that actually works. And we are very challenged because we sit with this whole patriarchal society in which we still have a remnants of it. We should really not be having these remnants anymore. There are way too many women out there who are empowered and who are running houses, and too many split families for that to hang around. And yet, it's still hanging around.
I think it's hanging around because we bought into the dialogue.
But now, what you basically described was being in a codependent relationship. And I think way too many people don't understand the codependent relationship. This is what we've been talking about the whole time so far, where you go into a relationship, you want to be fixed by somebody. You realize at the same time that person needs fixing and you're willing to do the fixing. It's not like, oh, go fix yourself and come back when you're fine, It's not like, no, come back here. Come. I need a project. Come be my project. I will fix you. And then we have this wishful thinking about how we want to be fixed, like you say. And then the second thing happens in a codependent relationship. We start giving up. This stuff is actually important to us because I mean, I know from the Trauma to Triumph Summit that you turned into somebody who was spunky, eventually. You learned a lot about yourself. And so if you look at who you were at 19 and who you were inside the relationship, and it's like, how the heck did I give away that girl? How did I give away who I was at 16, my dreams, my expectations for myself? Where the heck did it go to? We give away in a codependent relationship. We give away in a flash because we've got a project to fix, so we feel good about it. And at the same time, and we have self-worth because we're in this relationship, we suddenly have self-worth, and then things are not on. But we give it away tiny little bit, and we don't even notice it in that relationship. Stuff which are important to us.
You've made such a massive point there that, and that's what I was saying earlier, is when I was looking at the photographs from many years before that, it came up on a timeline 20 years before, 18 years before, 7 years before, and I thought, how is that really me? At what point did I give up on myself to get to that point where I looked like that? And it wasn't that I wasn't looking after myself, it's that I'd let myself go in every aspect emotionally that was showing up in manifested in my physical being. And we don't even realize the impact of not healing, the impact of not having boundaries, not having self-love, self-care, not having self-respect. And that whole empath thing, that I understand being empathetic and being an empath, but at what point do we actually stop long enough and say, maybe we should make ourselves the project first?
Yeah. That is, I mean, if you have always been in a codependent relationship, it's your default setting. You actually have to become very aware
Yes.
of it. And And that's the moment when you have to have a wants and needs list, a non-negotiables, a,
Mm.
a way in which to have a difficult conversation. If you're in a relationship with somebody who cannot have conversations about the difficult stuff in life, somebody needs to settle, because you either talk
Mm.
things through or somebody is settling. There's nothing else. There really is. But have difficult conversations, and both people can find something to be happy about. Negotiate to a point where it's mutually acceptable and nobody has to be valid, or nobody has to be happy all the time. Or there's one person who's settling. That therein lies the problem. The one
But you
person
know,
who's settling.
when you settle, you start to become resentful. So then
Yeah,
that's no longer a loving relationship. And then everything's your trigger. The
yeah,
way the person looks at you, the way they didn't look at you, the way you had expectations of, you know, is it not obvious that there are flowers right there? Like, use your brains and buy me some. And then
exactly.
that's a trigger again. But it was my wants and needs and expectations. And if I did not explain clearly enough, why would I go and put the pressure on somebody else? And so what I would do then, and this is what I did, is I settled. I settled for what I did not have to have. I did not have to have the trips overseas. I did not have to have the holiday because he didn't want it. He didn't feel like it. Or when we did go on holiday, it was only what he wanted, and we'd be stuck in a hotel room. So I traveled to the most incredible places overseas, but I had to settle for a hotel room and maybe a restaurant and maybe one site in a 2 week holiday, just because it was what he always wanted, and I gave up on what I could have. I gave up on happiness of being a part of that life. I gave up on being a part of a relationship. What I was is a part. I was in a
Mhm.
relationship, but I was a part, not
Yeah.
in it, not being fully, not giving fully. I was resentful, and I started to realize it was making me do selfish things because it was happening in my head. And then I started to get angry at myself and then also feel guilty for why I wanted to have a holiday, why I wanted different things. And I mean, what you said, I mean, you settle for things and it becomes a default setting. I, when people look at us, they say, "Oh, but you've got everything." Yes,
Mm.
we may have had everything, but I had nothing, because there's no freedom, and to feel like a caged animal just so that everybody else could feel good about themselves. It wasn't their fault, it was always mine. And I took full responsibility for that before I can begin healing. And being in a relationship with Jan, we went through 2 years of questioning as best friends. What happened with you in your relationship? What happened 5 years ago? Let's sit down and write down things. What did somebody say that pissed you off? Why wouldn't you buy flowers? I mean, like, what was the trigger for you? What is the cause of it? And then he explained from his point of view as a man and his experiences in his relationships. And so what I did was I started to understand from his point of view, and I used a lot of compassion to now understand another human being's journey and not impose my self limiting beliefs that still needed to be healed. So now I didn't take it as a rejection that he didn't buy me flowers. I came in with understanding of why it was not important to him. And then I explained to him why it was important to me. And exactly as you said, you have those difficult conversations, but we went deeper than that. We went to every single thing, from going out to finances, to the way we would be with each other, the way we nurture and care for each other. How do we want to connect in a public environment? How we'll hold hands? I mean, we went through 2 years of all of that questioning. But there was, what we were doing was building a foundation of thoughtfulness, not love. It was a foundation of thoughtfulness where we're helping each other heal. And I think
Okay, wait,
that,
wait. I want to just bring something out here because this is so important. What you
okay.
were doing was you were giving space for the
Mm,
other person's opinions.
yeah.
because people don't do that. It has to be like this my way.
Mm.
And so you were being mutually respectful, where the other person were invited and allowed and celebrated for having their own views. We just don't do that. Once we start doing that, that's massive. It's so important. And that's why I want to call it what it is.
Mm. But do you know how much emotional maturity I needed to have those conversations to start with? Because coming out of devastation, I was so keen on not having any of that. And so I went over to the other side. It was just too much. It was either we have it this way or no way or at all, or we need to find the balance. But it took me a long time of understanding why I was feeling triggered, because it's not his fault. And then have conversations about what it meant to me. What did that voice mean to me? Where did that trigger? What did that trigger for me? And that was even in your book. You know, when you talk about the triggers and things like that, you've got to delve really deeply to understand where the cause of it was, not the symptom. Because right now we deal with symptoms and then we want to attract a whole lot of people into our lives, and we want them to fill us, and we want them to heal us, and we want them to repair us, because we think that it's not our job. It's all our job. We are fully responsible at every step of the way. And those triggers was not his fault. It wasn't his problem. He didn't cause it. And then things that triggered him, I wasn't the person who caused it or triggered it, but the emotional maturity needed was, as you said, to create that safe space, to hold space for the other person, to honestly share their views, their experiences, and their opinion. And then we came to an understanding of, okay, if this is what happened to you in your past, when do you feel like you can let go of that? What do you need in terms of healing? Go away and think about it. And we would take months. We don't come up with this immediate quick fix. No, I'm cured. No, no, it's layers that needed to be peeled off. It was layers of thinking and belief systems and facades, and this mirror that stands in front of us gives us such a blatant reality check. It is a shocker to see ourselves and know that we've got the ability to leave a bad relationship, and we have the ability to attract the best relationship, as long as we have the ability to understand who we are and the role we play in that relationship and what we are bringing to the table.
Yeah, because we can be with the perfect person, with the best relationship that we could possibly have. And if we are not emotionally mature and we don't take responsibility for ourselves, we also have the ability to completely and utterly mess it up. Arthie, I want to go to the what we learn from good relationships, but we've got quite a few. We're gonna I know who we're gonna get comments from just now. We've got quite a few comments here, so I wanna go there.
Okay.
Okay. Oh no, this is the wrong one. Okay, there. Hi Linda, nice to see you. Yeah, it's the how helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know something from you, Mr. Jan Roberts. Like, can you please tell me why your surname is not Jan Moore Roberts?
Because I don't want him taking on the baggage of the past of mine.
Oh, okay, all right. Just checking.
No, no, my
Yeah.
sons are more, and I'm never going to leave the legacy that I had with their dad, because that is a part of my life, and I
That
walk
makes
that life with
complete sense.
gratitude.
Yeah, makes
Mm.
please complete sense, Mr. Roberts. You're off hook. To focus on what you really want. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, this is yeah. Yeah, and look, Linda, you're using the word there. The very important word you use is this: action.
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 Exactly. Linda, you rock, man.
Okay. Speak my.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah, I knew you'd be there.
You see why this dude is so epic?
I
You know?
know. I love Jan. He's awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'm going to close this curtain here. Okay, so now let's go to what do we learn when we are in a good relationship. And I want to bring out something specifically.
Mm.
This thing that you wouldn't be pretty, wouldn't, I mean, I'm not
Yes.
talking about the fact that you're beautiful, but that you wouldn't be pretty, that you wouldn't be girly, that you wouldn't wear a dress, that you, after all the work on yourself, you didn't feel safe. Okay.
No.
And then you have a guy
Yeah.
and he loves you and he allows space for you. I'm going to tear up now.
Yeah.
And
That's going to
then,
be you bringing up something really deep there. Yeah.
yeah, now I'm going to cry. Let's cry. I need a tissue. Let me just move muffin so I can get a tissue. No, no tissues. Why do I not learn? This happens to me all the time. Okay, so I mean, this is huge.
Mm.
We still walk around when we have relationship scars, when we've got sexual scars, when
Mm.
we've got deep trauma scars that are attached to our womanhood. It's not that we are broken, like you say, but it is, I have unfinished business that
Mm.
only heal inside a safe relationship. And a safe relationship is one in which your partner is going to allow you to make those steps gingerly. Not, I'm here, I'm all in it, I need to make these steps because I have unfinished business inside myself that I still need to heal because I am able to trust you.
Mm.
So we're talking about a relationship of trust that heals something inside us.
Mm. You had to go there.
Well,
Yeah.
you've been
Okay.
public.
So,
You've been public about it. I mean, you've said I'm wearing a dress now. I'm doing my hair. You've been public. I mean, really, you've been
yes.
on you've been on Facebook. You know, you've been on Instagram with all of it. So it's not that you haven't shared this journey publicly, but I mean, just to say that we can. I mean, obviously, too many women are walking around with deep, deep, deep scars. And
Huge.
anybody who's watched your summit story, I mean, this is the third time we're talking on Facebook, so second time. So, I mean, the last time you told your story, it,
Mm.
you cannot imagine that anybody going through that won't have deep, deep scars.
You know, when you look at the bad relationship, so let's go back to there. I went through a lot of abuse when I was growing up, and it was sexual abuse, and it was rape at gunpoint, and everything. And the one thing that I was always told, it's because of the way I looked, it's because of the way I dressed, it is because I was vibrant and energetic, and I attracted it. And so, what that built within me is that being beautiful and attractive brought pain and suffering to me. And so that was a deep part of my psyche that needed to be healed in a massive way. And I went into a relationship with everything that I did not want to have, and I understood mind power. And still, I attracted all of the things that made me feel not beautiful, made me feel even worse. And and even if I tried something new, a new outfit or anything, I was always told, you're looking for attention, and that I must wear baggy clothes, and I must not wear anything that would show who I am. And I even looked at the photos. I dumbed myself down so badly that I became used to dressing like that. And that is not who I was. And when I came into this relationship with Jan, we were best friends for a few years before we even had a romantic relationship. But in that time, he always treated me with respect, and he always gave me space for how I wanted to heal, and we talked through a lot of things. But the trigger for me was he kept talking about one of his ex-girlfriends who was beautiful, and then I saw a photograph of her, and I thought she is beautiful, but I saw physical beauty. And I thought, okay, so it's back to the same thing again. It's physical beauty is what's attractive to a man. And I actually lost hope. I thought I could never be like that. And then one day I thought, no, this has got nothing to do with him. It's got everything to do with me. And so I need to make sure that each year for my birthday, I'm going to do something that allows me to now embrace my feminine side to the point where I feel beautiful to me, regardless of whether he ever told me the words or not. And so, beginning on the first, I remember that second year we were together, we went out, and I actually had the courage because I knew he would keep me safe. And I wore these long black boots and absolutely short skirt and a top, and we went out for New Year's Eve for a New Year's Eve party. But the whole time, I did not, even though I felt uncomfortable putting it on, it's the way he looked at me that allowed me to feel, okay, there's something that just in the words that he used to me and the way he looked at me was the trigger that, okay, this is good, it's respectful, it is classy, it's dignified. He didn't make me feel as if I was worthless or a tramp or a prostitute or that I deserved to be abused. All of the things in my head that I had put to the words beautiful or to the outfits or to the way I looked in the outfits. And for me, it was him. It's the way he grounded me in those moments that allowed me to start experiencing what would it feel like. Well, if he looked at me in that way and the beautiful comments he gave to me, compliments he gave to me, we weren't even in a relationship, gave me the ability to feel like not all men are like that. And then there was a different trigger for me. And so then I started experimenting with, well, let me set mini baby goals. By the next year, I'm going to buy myself stiletto heels. And I'm going to take my time until I feel right, and I will find the right heels for me. And then I surprised everybody on my birthday with different outfits. And then it was nails being done. And that was talking into pampering when I've worked hard for most of my life. So to have your nails done and your hair done and things like that, it was a nice to have, and it wasn't like it was like a massive gift that could happen once a year or every couple of years. It wasn't natural for me, and it didn't matter how many women around me said to me, "Please come, we will take you. Let's go and have a manicure, pedicure." I didn't believe in all of that stuff because in my head I needed to dumb myself down to still remain in the background in my thinking. If I did all of these things, aren't I going to stand out? And if I stand out, aren't I going to be looking beautiful? And somebody's going to notice, and then I'm going to get taken advantage of. So the stupidity of those words, I did not even realize that it was still within me in an unhealed part. And as we were in this relationship together, he created this gentle space where we would talk things through for hours, and he would ask me amazing questions, and he never belittled me, he never questioned me as if there was something wrong with me. He just said, how come you feel that way, what happened? And just allowed me the space to even cry for hours and hours. And the calls, we would sit on calls, and even when he traveled, sit for hours on calls. And for me, it was the nurturing of the communication that created that safe environment for us to grow together. And there's very few people who've got that kind of communication where they can feel safe enough to say what they want, how they feel, where it's coming from, without the fear of rejection or judgment. And I think maybe
Yeah.
that's the key. He never
Yeah.
judged.
But you know what, Arthie? It comes back to, if we bring it back to us again, and it is, what's my list of what I need in a relationship?
Mm,
We have long lists. This person's financial status, he must be tall, or he must be blonde, and that's the color of his eyes, and he must have a steady job. We talk about all of those things, but there's something that's much, much more important than anything else, and that is this. And this is my shortlist. This is eventually, after burning that mattress and having really rewired my brain and loving myself and doing group work, groups 3 times a week, where we had this discussion often. What is your wants and needs? What is your non-negotiables? Write down these things. And eventually, where my wants and needs became just very, very simple. To be with people who see me for who I am and who are willing to hear me. That's all. I don't need to be right. I don't need, but I do need to be seen for me, not for what I can bring them, for anything else, but for me, and have that person being interested in you. And somebody who's willing to hear me, not agree with me, hear me. And somebody who wants the same back, because then you are in a relationship in which you can create real connection and happiness. When 2 people want this is rare. When 2 people want that and want to, who are able to give that for somebody else, that is when we build that solid foundation that you were talking about.
Huge. And if you had to just use one word, that as human beings, I want to feel like I exist. And the other person in the relationship wants to feel like they exist. And it's not about you building your whole world around them. It's about building a beautiful world with them. And that's the biggest gift you can have in a beautiful relationship. Then
And there's
everything's
one essential thing that tells you that whether this relationship is worthy of you or not. This is time. Because if somebody doesn't give you time, they don't see you and they don't hear you and they don't allow you to see them, and you are not doing your 50%, if you don't use your voice for your 50%. It is time and time and time. Relationships that work are relationships where people give each other time. You don't have to give somebody all the time, but when you are there and you're with them, that is when you give him time. You give him time. So, wow, okay. Okay, let's just...
It's about being present in that time.
Like,
It's
let
the
me ask you...
quality of your presence.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all of us that we've discovered. I don't know where an hour went to. Honestly, I have no clue. There. Aha. Look at this now. Jan, now looking for trouble. You were doing so well. Let's go back to that one. Okay. We love you, Jan. Again, the Scottish dude is not a Scot. Wow. Okay, we're going to have more of these, I think.
I just think that whoever's listening in, wherever you're at in this journey, you're enough. Start with you're enough. And then continue to grow until you're more than enough. And in that journey, understand it's always self-discovery. And it's about being intentional.
Yeah. In relationships, it's always about what is my part? What is it? Where am I showing up? Where am I not showing up? What is my part? That's self-empowerment. And
Absolutely.
yeah, otherwise you are not creating the life that you are worthy of. Okay, wow. Okay, so anybody joins us afterwards, please leave comments. We'd love to see your comments, and share if you know if somebody needs this. But look, if you don't know by now that the whole world needs this, let me tell you, please share this, because there are other people like us who are crying themselves to sleep at night, who are totally, totally desperate, who don't even know where to start, who doesn't understand that this stuff exists, who doesn't have hope that stuff can be different because they just haven't had these examples. So please share, guys. And you know what? You do know that I love those little hearts there at the top. So give us a heart. And okay, I settle for a like, but it's like with a heart. Okay.
You're dealing with hard tape. And I
Yeah,
think one of the things that's important is that this is equally for men,
yeah,
not
absolutely.
just women. And I think that, men listening into this, especially from your men's summit, I mean, that was mind blowing. And to connect with you more and find out more about all of the other summits and the books that you've got and the programs, it doesn't finish on a Facebook Live.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
about connecting with you, engaging with you, and seeing how can people take their next steps. Because I took some steps with you. I experienced your book. It was mind blowing, and I know that we can get it on Amazon, as well as if people are in South Africa, order it. Even put it in the comments section and find out how can you get your physical copy. It seriously is worthwhile investing in the next parts of your journey. The
Yeah,
hamster
and
wheel for relationships, mind
yeah.
blowing.
And then also, the Trauma to Triumph book, which are
Yes.
by 12 people who took part in the Trauma to Triumph Summit. I mean, you know what? I am blown away by what everybody's written. There's not a single person who made a contribution, who wrote a chapter, who didn't just bring it. And so for me, it's like if you get the Trauma to Triumph book, because I have one way of saying things. There are many different ways of saying things. And you sit there and you go through one chapter at a time and you make notes and you start applying these things in your life. There's so many layers of healing in it. So that book's at the editor now, and we'll upload it soon for pre-order. And then the conversations and the the relationships for men summit, I'm going to keep on doing that. And every now and again, I'm going to do a one-day release of some new interviews, and I'm very excited. I can't stop it, Alfie. I just can't stop it. But the world, and to find all these men who are so willing to talk about their lives and where they messed up and how they're doing better and where they are now, and to have men talk about real feelings and being very open and aware. I mean, I just had to talk to a conversation just before I talked to you with a new contributor. And I said to him, we should have recorded it because it was actually live on air coaching quickly. But I mean, that's the sort of stuff that makes it exciting when people are willing to talk about their lives and go like, aha, this is awesome.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for showing up, Arthie. And we'll think about another really juicy subject soon. I know.
All your subjects are juicy.
Yeah, I know. No real stuff. No, nothing is not on the table. It's the real stuff.
Real. We need real.
It's just stuff people need. Okay, lots of love to you. Thank you all for coming. Thanks Jan for being there and for being such a great supporter. And let me go find the right thing. I am going to try not to play the Tuesday outro. It's really not Tuesday, people. Okay, I've got one here that says Thursday. Thursday. No, really.
Everything except Wacky Wednesday.
Yes. Here we go. Okay. Lots of love.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Love you too, babe.